You're listening to Tehachapi with Key Budge, Corey Costello, Greg Garrett, and Ashley Whitmore.
It's Tehachapi time. Key Budge, Greg Garrett. We're going to highlight another one of our departments here within the city. We're highlighting development services. Jay Schlosser, Andrew Norton join us today. Guys, welcome.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having us, Key.
Thanks for having us aboard. Absolutely.
I should say welcome back, because what we want to do is we're going to put them on the hot seat, and we're going to update projects that they've been working on, because last we had you in here about March, and it was just as spring was starting. We still had a ton of weather coming, and we were looking at a ton of projects that are on the table for you guys, and we want to find out where we are, what's been done, what's happening, and what to look forward to.
Yeah, it's been a busy season. It's been a busy season already for us this year. We've knocked out a few items on our very long list. We have an exceptionally large list this year. Typically, this department runs 7, 8, 9 capital projects a year. We're at 11 this year. Actually, I think the list we're going to talk about today is 14. So big year for us this year. Lot to do, and lots happened, and a lot still going to happen.
Weather, delayed some of the bidding and the projects, if you will, but we've completed a lot of projects, but we have a lot to do between now and the first snow. So let's start with, what have we completed so far?
Yeah, so why don't I take the first one? And that's one we've talked about a little bit. The Denison Waterline was the first project that we completed in this calendar year, and that was a new waterline over on Denison. And it, just as a reminder, we accelerated that project. It was budgeted for next year, but due to some actual leaks in the pipe, it was a maintenance project. We were able to accelerate that project and get it done to save the maintenance team from potential additional major leak repairs. So that's a new water line on Denison from about where the high school's at up to Highline, and went smoothly, really. Not too many issues. Andrew, I don't know, does that assessment sound right to you? Went smoothly?
Yeah, construction on that one went real well.
Yeah. I want to bring up also, and we did it in a previous podcast when we were talking to Public Works about this project, but this was designed at the time of the Cherry Lane Water Project. And why did we design the two at the same time, and what's the benefit of doing that?
Yeah, you're able to bundle the survey and those kind of design efforts where they're out in the field. We bundled the two projects together and designed them both at the same time as a cost-saving measure. And
then when the problem advanced itself to be dealt with, it's already ready to go.
Yeah, so that's the additional benefit, is to put a project on the shelf. You always have to be careful with that, because if they sit on the shelf too long, they get stale and have to be touched up. But in this case, we had been working with utilities for several years now, starting to do better CIP planning. And CIP is Capital Improvements Program, CIP planning for city facilities. And utilities had been reporting to us that they were beginning to identify some spots in town where major maintenance was needed, which is where you're replacing a whole pipeline for 1,000 feet or something like that. And so that's when we decided these two projects were the highest order. We had planned them out in consecutive years, but decided to design them together. And then when we literally had a mainline leak on Denison, which was the second year project, which was like the fourth mainline major leak we'd had since I've been the city engineer. So it's been a real chronically problematic area. We were able to kind of look at the books and see what we had in the bank, and if we had the money for the repair, and accelerate the project to get it done. So that's what we did. And I don't know, if you drive out there, all you're going to see is a spot with bare dirt where we had put the pipeline. The one thing you will see if you drive up to the corner Highline at Denison is you'll see a little silver cylinder out in the dirt with some bollards around it, and that is our air vac valve. That's a component of the system that keeps air from staying inside those pipelines, which gives customers problems. So that's the only evidence that we were out there.
This is exciting to Jay. He's all about this air valve.
I did go to school 25 years ago.
Oh my goodness, he's like squirming in his seats. He's loving it.
I love the fact that, and even though we talked about this in a previous podcast, Greg, you and I, we had Tyler Napier and Don Marsh with us, and we were talking about this exact project, two different departments, but it was critical that you talk to each other and work with each other on this, where to me, that's what I think part of the podcast is us communicating to the public is the way we talk to each other, and then we get that information back out to them. But you guys identified a problem between the departments, design, it impacts them with water service and neighborhoods, and all they care about is they turn on the tap and water's there. Yeah. But there's an awful lot of planning that goes in to make sure that water is there.
For sure. And, we talk about planning just now. We talk a lot about planning. Everybody at the city is planners, as I've said many, many times, but we planned on replacing the Denison water line before we built the Pinyon Extension, right? You don't want to cut brand new asphalt. So the water line is complete. Yay. It's all good. Should last for many, many decades. And now we have a brand new road, Pinyon Extension. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So Andrew, give them the details on what we finished up.
Sure. That's we connected Pinyon along from Denison to about Brandon. It's parallel to Valley, so it should relieve some of the school traffic. It does, as Greg stated, run right over the brand new water line, and that was intentional. It was about $1 million construction project, and we added some streetlights and that kind of stuff for safety.
And it's wide enough for pedestrians and bike. There's a bike lane on each side, if you will.
Type 2 bike
So
lane,
it's just adding more opportunities for traversing throughout our valley.
One of the interesting things I've seen, I've driven it a couple of times. I don't know if you guys have gone out there just kind of casually. We were out there for the ribbon cutting and that kind of stuff. But it's interesting how many pedestrians I've seen out there. And they're not, I don't recommend you because we have 2 lanes of vehicle traffic and 2 bike lanes. But one of the interesting features of the way the road was graded is there are 2 fairly flat shoulders on either side of the road that were frankly unintentional. We didn't design that to build a place for you to walk your dog.
Jay, don't say that.
Well, but it was kind of a happy coincidence of the way that it worked out. And I've actually seen I've driven it only a few times. I don't live over there, and I've seen in both cases somebody out there walking their dog, and
yes.
And frankly, with the weather the way it's been like picturesque, right? Out here walking your dog, and you got a view of the mountains in both directions, and it just kind of ended up one of those neat little spots. So, tricky project. It took us a number of years to pull the pieces together. Andrew's smiling in here. You guys can't see him, but he's the guy who fields all the tough phone calls and keeps all the paperwork and the grant agencies happy. And that it's hard to describe the quantity of time it takes to kind of put out fires and address those problems. They're real, but
well, it's worth the effort because there's $1 million grant, $1 million plus, and otherwise it would come out of our coffers, right? If somebody is going to offer that money up and they have their rules and their regulations that we've got to follow, then we will follow them and we will follow their timeline and we'll get a new road.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
It's the way to go.
It is a beautiful, black, smooth road, so we would ask everyone to, keep your speeds down while you're enjoying the new road.
And you mentioned grant. Let's talk about just really quick the funding for that.
Yeah, so that's congestion mitigation air quality. So you might hear us use the term CMAQ from time to time. That's, the world is acronyms, but that's what the acronym stands for. The 2 targets of that type of funding is exactly what it says. Congestion mitigation, meaning reducing congestion, because congestion has been proven to produce, deteriorating or, the greenhouse gases that reduce air quality, and then air quality specifically. And so the factors that influence the quality of our applications when we do grants there are being able to prove that the project will reduce greenhouse gases specifically. So those are like CO2 and NOx and SOx and a couple of these other chemical terms, but then also dust. So PM 2.5 or particulate matter 2.5 and 10 are 2 measurements of types of particulate matter that's in the air. Dust is typically PM 10. And so we look for projects, and we're successful with projects that kind of check both boxes, right? So if we can improve circulation to reduce congestion, which we did by adding this parallel route to Andrew's point that took traffic off of Valley or off a Highline, and we can stop people from producing clouds of dust as they're blowing through that dirt field, which was also happening. Together, we have a good cocktail for a successful project.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So let's talk a little bit about slurry seal and striping. I know you guys have fancy names and enhanced striping and surface treatment and so on and so forth, but brand new black streets and brand new paint all over town. So let's talk a little bit about that, Andrew.
Yeah, the enhanced striping project was another set aside grant fund. It gave us $250,000 to stripe edge lines around town for enhanced visibility. And so that's why we see a number of roads with new white edge lines.
Yeah. Your Tesla needs those so it can stay in its lane.
Mm-hmm. That's
Dead
right.
serious. That's
We learned that the last podcast. That's right.
Yep.
Technology. It's amazing.
Slurry seal and striping. It's always nice to see nice new black streets and nice fresh white or yellow paint.
Yeah. Which neighborhoods
good
did
job.
we do on the slurry seal?
We did south of Valley, the Mulberry Mill.
Okay.
I think we did Beach, Aspen.
Okay.
Quite a bit this
Did
year.
we do Arabian is not Ash Tract?
We did
over
Ash Tract,
on
yep.
Denison. Oh, look. Hey, there's a map we made. There you go. Yeah, and then we did the Hickory. Did you say that? Hickory Laurel Fig.
And then a bunch of city-owned public parking areas in the downtown area too. So
Yep.
good stuff. Good stuff.
And that's all a part of our road maintenance plan. We talked about that with Public Works in length with Don and Tyler and why we do that. But that falls into also your department. You know, that road maintenance plan when you guys work together. So it's for me, I bridge that back just because our departments talk to each other.
Yeah.
And part of that is this communication, road maintenance plan, and the things we do, how we plan things out, the design, the engineering, everything that goes involved. But I mean, this is another one of those multi-department projects where the communication is key.
Well, can I briefly, as an aside, just there's a great parallel story to Caltrans District 9. For years, headquarters of Bishop managed certain capital projects for District 9, which included the city of Tehachapi, but District 6 provided traffic operations. And they had a split between, I'm trying to remember who had maintenance and who had traffic operations, but they were split between two districts. And we used to joke around, this is about 10 years ago. They remedied this since then, but they ran into this problem where the engineering team and the maintenance teams didn't talk because they were two different districts of Caltrans. And as a consequence, nothing got done. Right? Because one party maybe knew there was a problem, but they weren't communicating with another party over it. And so it really does take, in this industry, it takes that level of communication. And it takes engineering over in our department to kind of know what some of the fixes are and what the remedies are, and then to talk to the maintenance crews about, because you can also put something on paper that sounds like a really great idea. Hey, we can look at a piece of paper and say that's what we need to fix. But the maintenance guys, they're the guys that drive it every day, and you've got to have their feedback on what the real priorities are. So to your point, we've really enhanced in the last 3, 4, 5 years that cooperation so that we are better targeting what we need, and then kind of amusingly, we provide a unified front to Greg and the finance team about making sure the money shows up so we can get this stuff done. And
it's not funny to me. It's work.
We
it's
have to
real
strategize a little bit sometimes.
And I'm proud of what you do.
So.
And, part of the communication, I was just thinking about, I moved on from Public Works to your building for good reason, right? So better communication, right? Because if you're going to design and build something, Don Marsh and his team have to maintain it. And I've always said it, the trick is maintaining. You can build all kinds of structures or streets or roads, but maintaining it is the trick. And so you have to be cohesive. You have to work together to figure out how you're going to design, build, maintain, and provide that public safety aspect of what's going on. So we get better and better as we move along. So, gentlemen, what do we have? We got a couple of projects out to bid. We're going to be building a lot more items. We're going to be maintaining. So what's in the queue?
Sure, yeah. I'll take this one. We have a number of asphalt projects coming up right now. As you said, we've got warm weather, so we're going to go ahead and bid road repave projects. The big one coming up this next couple weeks is the RSTP Valley repave. We're going to be repaving Valley from Curry west towards Beach Street. And hopefully we have that completed and wrapped up before school starts.
So that was my mandate.
That's still the goal.
Inside joke here, but not really.
No, there's no joke in it. Yeah.
The mandate still exists. But yeah, say that again. So we're going to be repaving Valley Boulevard. This is a big deal. Valley Boulevard from Curry to Beach.
Yep. And then
it's like a roller coaster now, right? And
Absolutely.
So we're going to flatten it out. We're going to create a crown. We're going to grind, and we're going to overlay, and it's going to be a brand new road within the center of our town.
Yep. And then depending on if we can afford it or not, we included it in the bid, was the actual intersection of Valley and Curry. So that's what we call an additive alternate. And it's if you have additional funding, you're able to,
That's good.
Do the extra work. That'll be the tricky piece. Traffic control is hard enough on a road that's that busy. If we end up doing the intersection too, that you have to do it. Intersections have to be paved from time to time too, but they're tricky to do. So, we'll communicate depending upon that bid comes in next week, right? Yeah. Yep. So we're hoping to pull the trigger quickly so that we can give ourselves some time to get it done before school starts. But, just letting everybody know it's a great project, going to be tricky to execute. Going to need everyone's patience.
It's worth repeating. We would have gone to bid earlier, right? In Andrew's defense, but the federal government, this is funded through FHWA, another acronym, but federal government through the state down to us. We can only go to bid when we receive the appropriate paperwork from the people that are going to be reimbursing us. So I would have put it out to bid, a couple of months ago, Key, and started grinding and overlay the day after school started or ended, but we're not there. So we're going to do our best. That's for sure.
One of the things that impressed me about this project and this planning part is because of the timeline, we want to have it done before school starts, is telling the contractor that we want full closure. This isn't going to be like, hey, we've got traffic control, you can get down to one lane, it's flagged. No, we want to close the road is the goal, right? So they can attack it and get it knocked out quickly.
Yeah, there's a balance here. There's a choice to be made when you do engineering design like this about how you want to tackle a problem of this nature. And there are even sides to it. On one side, if you do more intense traffic control, meaning closures, detour routes, you impact the public more significantly. But the flip side is you can often execute the work more cost efficiently and quicker. Those two words, frankly, are synonymous in the construction industry. But then the flip side of it is you can do less intense traffic control, like lane control or flagging or something like that. But then it takes the contractor longer because they're busy trying to work amongst all the traffic moving back and forth. So fundamental to what we do is that balance, with the goal being to get done before school started, because that's when we see congestion as opposed to just traffic. Our thought is a closure is a better way to do it. If we close it, we might be able to get it fully done in a week. If we leave it as traffic control, it might be 3 or 4 weeks of people dealing with it. And so that's the balance whenever we do stuff like this, is trying to find that right spot. But that's our thought process, is if we can get it done before school, that's worth a lot to us.
Well, it's probably going to save money too. When we're bidding these, we take that into account too, because if we can allow the contractor to get in and get out, that's going to save taxpayer dollars. So if you live on Elm or Mulberry or in one of those streets along, that connect within the boundaries of Valley, you might have to go north or south instead of going south or north and connect to Valley, right? You can't go to Valley. You'll have to go outbound and then circle back around to wherever you need to go. Yeah. So it's a great project. We'll in advance, we'll apologize to everybody, but at the end of the day, it's like Tehachapi Boulevard a couple of years ago when we repaved Tehachapi Boulevard. That's a big deal, right? In a business district, the contractor worked at night. We're not going to work at night in a neighborhood on Valley, but certainly, it's worth the effort, and the results are superb. That's the expectation.
Okay, and then we're right there in that neighborhood. I'm curious about Valley Park.
Yeah, that's one that's currently out to bid right now. We're actually starting to purchase the equipment and stuff for some of the park equipment for Valley Park. It's a little over an acre, and it's just a couple lots west of Aspen on Valley Boulevard.
Right behind the Valley Foods for the old timers, and recently the Mexican meat market. Right now, it's just a concrete slab, but it's a 1 acre park funded through the state of California. We were happy enough to receive a grant for that, so it's really exciting. So we're going to be going out to bid. We've talked about this project quite often, but by the end of fall, early winter, we should have a ribbon cutting for a brand new park in a neighborhood that is well deserved.
Totally agree.
Very deserving.
Mm-hmm. All right, and we've got some other things that are coming up. We're looking at.
Let me, as part of that big program in which we are kind of trying to. We've got a long 10-year plan for maintenance of all the roads. That's a plan that Don Marsh spearheaded and that we assisted in helping to shape. And part of that includes not only do we do some of these neighborhood streets with a seal coat, which is a less intensive surfacing process, we are also trying each year to budget for and execute some heavier reconstruction activities where seal coat just isn't going to do anything. And this year we are inadvertently doing two. We did one last year, and that one didn't turn out, and we're working with the bonding company to straighten that out. But ideally, that one gets redone either this year or next. Those streets are Anita Elm C, Maple, and Golden West Court. And for instance, so if you hear this and you went, yeah, I see some problems on those streets, and didn't they just pave that? The answer is yes, we know. And from the moment we started seeing problems with it, we engaged with the contractor and the contractor's bonding company, which is functionally like their insurance company, to get them to remedy this issue. But, it's a significant amount of money that's at play here. And so, unsurprisingly, that doesn't just happen overnight. I can't just pick up the phone and say it's not good enough and they go, okay, we'll be out and pave it tomorrow. It doesn't work like that. You've got to go through quite a bit of work with the bonding company to get them to understand the need and for them to then deliver the fix that's appropriate. So,
so the listener, rest assured, no new tax dollars, and they will be fixed.
They will be fixed.
And you and I recently went out there and shot a video on scene to show an example of some of this faulty work that is going to be addressed.
It's very disappointing, but it happened, and we'll get it fixed, and we'll move on.
Yeah, it's happened. I've been doing this for 23 years now. It's happened twice, 2.5 times in my career where the work has been so subpar that it went to that level of rehabilitation. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen, and there is a process in place for remedying it. So, that's the reality of this business. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's nothing the city did or didn't do. It falls completely on the contractor's lap.
Correct.
And we'll get it fixed.
Yep. But the other one, for the one that we had scheduled for this year that would be new work of that nature, we are close to beginning the advertisement period, looking for a contractor for EF Poly and maybe part of D Street. Is that right?
Yep.
Again, we have a couple of bid ad alternates on that project, hoping that if we get good pricing, that we might be able to do a little more versus a little less. But those streets, and that's roughly from like Mulberry to Curry?
Yeah, it's Curry west towards Mountain View, yeah.
Mountain View. That's what it was. Yep.
Have you noticed? Andrew has all the answers here.
Yeah, well.
He knows the boundaries. But then again, this is his job.
This is his baby.
So I would expect it.
So, yeah, if it goes wrong, we also know who to call, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Extension 131, guys.
So those are good. So if we get that out to advertise here in the next, we're thinking a week or two, we're going to have that out to advertise. That takes about a month to advertise and bid. So maybe construction start in late August, and knocking that out in through September and October. Those are, we've done those now this is the third year we've done projects of that nature. They're not terribly impactful to traffic. There's a couple of days of difficulty if you live on those streets, but they don't last for months, but the benefit is there. It's a big part of our long-term plan to do major rehabilitation and significantly improve.
And I know Andrew, he reaches out to all the property owners, and if there's a special need, we take care of it. We're here to help. We're closing streets to repave streets, and if you need some extra care, if you have a special needs or something, we want to know about it, and we're going to help you through that process. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the next big project, Andrew, this is the biggest single grant that the city has ever received or yet to receive. We're really close, but the airport improvement / drainage project, over $7 million worth of grant money.
Yep. That one's a large project where we're adding storm drain to the airport runway and taxiways, and doing some additional asphalt work.
Yeah, we're relocating the taxiway even, so it's shifting it and rebuilding it. And so to meet current FAA regulations for process, the pavement also needed to be rehabilitated. So better still, once you build it again where it belongs instead of just repaving it. And it's a sizable FAA grant, and with the size of the grant comes the size of paperwork that corresponds to it. So we've been pushing hard over, frankly, the last 6 months plus to get the process with FAA squared away, not counting all the design time that it took to actually.
So the grant is actually listed on the FAA's website, Key, and then also Kevin McCarthy, the Speaker McCarthy's office, called us and said we did receive it, but we don't have the piece of paper from the FAA. So until we have that, we're not going to award the bid to anybody. But, we talk about drainage on the airport and taxiway relocation. If you've been around Tehachapi long enough, the water, storm drain, it runs from the south to the north, and it all kind of ends up on the airport. So when we talk about drainage on the airport, it's going to help the airport for sure, but it's also going to help the entire city and community as we flow that water and manage our storm water. So it's a great project.
Yeah, if you've been on 58 recently, guys, between Mill Street and the Tehachapi Boulevard exits, you will probably, you get real close to where the runway gets close to the freeway there. You'll see it off to your side. There was a phase 1 to the project where we built a drainage sump and a drainage overflow structure. So that overflow structure is real visible from the freeway. So if you drove by and you see at the end of our runway this new sweeping path of concrete, that's what you're seeing is part of a initial phase 1 drainage improvement out there. And this phase 2 realigns the taxiway and then extends those drainage facilities into the airport proper, routing all of that stormwater in a major storm event to that sump and then ultimately to that spillway. So all heavily engineered and a good project. We're excited to see it done. It's going to be the biggest single improvement that's been done to the airport probably since its inception. At any one moment, this is probably the largest amount of money that's ever been spent on that airport since it was originally built.
Absolutely.
So big deal.
And then a couple more projects in the queue, a little smaller, but certainly worth repeating.
Yeah, absolutely. They're concrete. We've got 3 or 4 concrete projects coming up. It's getting the plan is to start fall with some of those concrete projects as the weather gets a bit cooler and get away from the asphalt paving. So the first one we have is CDBG Northside, the 3rd phase, and it's doing sidewalks on.
It's I, isn't it? I
Is
Street.
it I? Yep, south side of I.
Yeah. A couple of blocks worth there on I Street. That's the 3rd time we've done this project. That's why it's phase 3. We're very
got to be closing in. We've been putting curb gutter sidewalks on the north side for several years now.
Yep.
Grant funded.
Yep.
CDBG stands for Community Development Block Grant Money. It's census driven money. Usually we have to save a couple years worth of funds to be able to fund a single project, but we must be getting close to finishing all of that, because when that neighborhood was built, there were no curbs, there were no gutters, there were no sidewalks, and we've been investing a lot of money in that. So I'm very proud of that. Yep. I know that the people that live there, that tide is rising, so that's a good thing.
Yep. That's a great example where city infrastructure is tied to economic revitalization. I've seen it in the 20-year career that I've done. The downtown is obviously our sort of crown jewel example of that phenomenon where if the city can actually help lead the business world, or in this case, the neighborhood world, by spending some time, energy, and money and improving our facilities, there seems to be this natural occurrence where private property owners correspondingly make an improvement. It's a pride of ownership reality. And so that's the philosophy there, is that these funds are available to us. They're targeted only for that area of town. We can't spend CDBG funds anywhere else in town. So we spend them there, and step by step, little piece by little piece, but we're making the neighborhood nicer, and we are seeing a corresponding investment from the private sector. If it's just a homeowner taking a little bit more care with their front yard, or an investor buying a dilapidated house and updating it and renting it or selling it, we are seeing those types of investments there. So that's great news.
Yeah, those funds built Pioneer Park Key, and it's also the entrance to our airport, which is an economic driver. We have an industrial park over there, and the airport is a big part of our economic situation here in the city and this entire region.
And a lot of people don't understand that business aspect there at the airport. There are private hangars, but we have businesses that are a part of our aerospace and different industries all along that corridor that employ a lot of people here in Tehachapi.
That's right. So another one is sidewalks along Brentwood.
Yeah, absolutely. Those ones are starting at Curry, heading west to about Oakwood, and we'll be placing sidewalk infill essentially where there is none existing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then it's new handicap ramps. So each of those corners all along that stretch will be upgraded with ramps, for ADA purposes, but also, frankly, they're just easier to walk on.
That's great. The mobility then. You can get people out and moving. And so that's great.
Brentwood's obviously that's an arterial road for that community. So it's a big road to get kids, whether it's east to Tompkins or up to Cherry Lane, where we completed a sidewalk project a few years ago.
Yeah, all these connections, they make sense, right?
And that's a separate funding source.
Yeah, that's TDA is Transportation Development Act money. That's pretty. Those are small funding pots for pedestrian and bicycle improvements only, administered by the Kern Council of Governments. So, we put in for those grants on a pretty regular basis. In fact, we just put one in for some improvements on Denison that we're hoping to be able to do up by the high school.
Yeah, if we're successful, 2 years, 2025?
Yeah, they let me know that we're partially successful. They don't have quite enough to fund the whole thing. So I've got some meetings with the
They
school
probably looked at our
district
budget and said, you have money in your budget. Why don't you help self-fund this,
Yeah,
Greg?
so we're working on getting the whole nugget of money necessary to do that project together. Still film at 11 on that one. Haven't gotten that pulled together. But that's a good example of where that money comes from, and it's functionally local Kern County money that we compete with the other Kern County agencies to get. And we've been pretty successful.
And it's healthy to compete, right?
Yep.
You want the best project to win.
Yep.
Yeah.
You always do. Another one on Tehachapi Boulevard, Andrew. It's between the Park and Ride and J&H Automotive on the north side?
Yep, north side. We're going to place curb gutter, sidewalk, maybe a little asphalt infill there. And it will come once again fill in another section of missing sidewalk.
That's kind of where, well, not kind of, it is where Tehachapi Boulevard and Mill Street intersect. So that north side, so that'll make it a little safer, look nicer, and an area where you can walk too on the north side. So good stuff.
Yeah, my engineering brain finds this the most enjoyable project of the entire group of 14.
That little connection?
Yeah, because it just finishes something that's unfinished.
Oh, it's like the last piece
to
of
me,
a puzzle?
It's like, yeah.
Are you that guy?
Yes,
He's
actually,
a nerd,
I am.
Greg. Absolutely.
He is.
So,
Jay and I have been working together for 20
20
years.
years,
I
yeah.
knew that like 19.9 years ago.
yeah. So anyway, I'm excited to see that one. I think that people are really it's gonna finish it. It's gonna feel finished when it's done in that area.
For sure.
I think that's a good thing.
And then our final project on the list is Tehachapi Boulevard fencing. We're going to go ahead and place some sort of fencing along the north side of the newest bike path, just north of Tehachapi Boulevard. It runs from Hayes to Stuber.
That's going to be nice looking, but also create a safety barrier. So if you're biking or walking on the path, you're not going to wander on the railroad tracks, and we're going to keep the railroad employees off of our bike path. It's going to serve a lot of purposes. So I'm really excited about that one, Jay.
I think we're hoping to do like a post and rail fence or something of that nature. We still got to knock that out, or make that final decision. But that's what it looks like now, and so it's going to also be the right look. That's the part. It's not chain link or something like that. It's going to be very Tehachapi, because I don't know about you guys, but that 3-rail post and rail fence is ubiquitous to our zip code.
I love it.
And
it's
it
really
looks
nice.
great.
Yeah.
And so I think with that and all the trees we planted there in the last couple of years, that's really going to hopefully make that section. It's going to finish it off.
Well, with the trees, Andrew, last year, the big grant, how many trees did we plant?
500.
500 trees.
I think it
and
was
they're
about-
really coming out nicely. A lot of them are oak trees.
Almost all of them
It's
along
going to be
Tehachapi Boulevard
amazing.
are
And
going to be big
in
oaks.
a couple
yeah.
years, it's really going to start to come alive. So
Yeah.
that's exciting.
Yeah, they all seem to do well in the weather. In the winter, I've been up on Curry where we put them in the median. They look great. Some of them are twice as tall now as they were when they were planted in 1 year. And I'm not exaggerating. Like legitimately, they're 12 feet tall now, and they weren't when we planted them.
Last week I was driving along. I think we've lost 2 or 3. We're going to have to replace those. But, if you plant 500, lose 2 or 3.
You're going to lose a few, yeah.
That's an acceptable percentage. And I know WM, Waste Management, planted a lot of trees along Highway 58. They had some extras, gave them to us. And then we planted along the wastewater treatment plant. So beautification matters, and it's part of our strategy, quality of life.
And this came up the other day at EDC, if you remember, Greg, just that the opportunity to mention to the public that we're making a concerted effort over here to, especially when it comes to oak trees, it's kind of a personal passion of mine. I think there's these spots that are still left in our community where these oak trees, the native oak species are still living. There's something truly majestic about that particular tree. And a lot of that's gone, from history. That happens. But I'd love to see as many reasonable and logical spots as we can put those back. Those are the kinds of things we leave our kids, guys.
We're re-oaking the valley. I know John Hammond, you
Yeah.
referenced EDC, which is the Economic Development Council. John Hammond got up and spoke about oak trees and, them all being cut down in the valley floor and this and that, and re-oaking the valley is a good thing. So I'm all about it, and we're putting our money where our mouth is. That's for sure.
Well, Jay, let me ask you about all these different funding sources. How do you manage the amount of different funding? Because we talk about the federal highway, RSTP, we've got CDBG, TDA, and the list goes on. There's ATP. How do you manage all of these different entities that have grants? Because that seems like that's almost a full-time job in itself, to seek these out and to be able to, manage. And then everyone's got their own probably threshold of what you've got to give back to them. It's all different. It's probably this constantly moving bar.
In one word, Andrew.
Yeah, that is foundational truth, as clear as it can be. And when Andrew and I have talked about it, we've worked together now for a lot of years, and grown into these positions together. We joke, but we mean it also. It's this exercise of plate spinning. You guys have all seen the carnival act where the guy's got 17 basketballs that he's holding all at one time, and he stops and spins one, and then he stops and moves to the next and spins that to keep it going, so that the whole dance is always spinning. And it's plate spinning.
And sometimes it's a 3+ year spin.
Yeah, it's
right. You don't get the money tomorrow.
That's exactly right, and that is literally what I think it's like. Andrew, you tell me your experience with it, because I was doing it before you're doing it for us now. Is that really is very appropriate description of it, because you've got them all spinning. And you are constantly looking around going, okay, which one needs me to give it a little extra spin right now? And, to do the next piece of paper, or to advance the next, because we use a lot of consultants for extra staffing, hiring surveyors, biological monitors, archaeological monitors, engineers to design our projects, construction managers to help us get them done. And so the job is really about keeping all the plates spinning, and then and not letting any of them stop spinning. That's when you lose your money or you make a critical error. So Andrew's a huge part of that. There are a couple other staff members in engineering too that really are meaningful parts of keeping those plates spinning. But what do you think?
Yeah,
think I got
absolutely.
it right?
Yeah, I mean, well, as Greg said, it's a 3-year horizon on a lot of these projects. So not only do we have the 14 or 15 that we've either wrapped up this year or in process of wrapping up, we have another 15 on the docket, a 10 next year, and 5 already reserved for the 26 year. So it is, as Jay said, keeping all your ducks in a row and putting out fires constantly.
Yeah.
To me, I just know everything is different. Each of these organizations that supply the requirements, you've got to turn in. Some are similar, but everyone creates the new threshold, and they continually raise the bar. Oh no, that was good last time.
The bureaucracy never shrinks.
Right.
No.
And the inspection that has to take place, the paperwork, the audits, the follow-up audits. It's, these projects, even though we may complete them, they're never complete. There's always a little bit of an open book through the duration, through the life.
And I know that we have to be, and I mentioned it in the last podcast, but in a strong financial position also to kind of go out and do these projects too, because there is sometimes something that we have to contribute. There is the management of these projects. So that plays into it, just as much as finding these funding sources.
It does. Hamed Jones and his team do a spectacular job. And, the listeners, the city residents, the voters, they pass Measure S.
Yeah.
Thank you again. But we're putting that money to really good use, maintaining this amazing city. And so it all matters. The cogs are all spinning together, well oiled.
Let me be specific for the sake of the listeners. So Valley RSTP, that funding source, typically provides us about $350,000 a year or every 2 years in grant funding from the federal government. That number has largely stayed unchanged for the last 20 years. So we don't get as much money functionally because of inflation. We get less money every cycle.
It shrinks.
And so this project we're expecting to be $500,000. If we're stuck at 350, we're going to do something like Curry to Oakwood, which is a pretty illogical way to divide Valley Boulevard up and execute it. We're trying to do it in 2 pieces. We're going to do Valley to Beach, and then 2 years we're going to get Beach to Tucker. That's the plan. But it requires Measure S will be providing the funds necessary to come up with that delta to deliver this project. And the same thing with EF and Poly this year. we had a certain amount, about $350 saved up for that project. We think that project is $750 plus this year. And so we went to Greg, Don, and this is that cabal I was talking about. So we got together with Don and Tyler, Andrew, and I.
We're the tag team.
And we looked at the project and we said, what can we talk Greg into? And, did a little strategizing, but came back and said, look, this is what we need. And Greg said, well, that's what we got Measure S for, so let's do it. And so these are two examples where we had projects already in pipeline. We're doing other pipeline projects with Measure S. Now that the money is here, we're beginning to do planning with that money. But these were two projects that were immediately ready to take some of that money and deliver a project. So, that's where we're at. But to put rubber to the road on this one, we are that money, that financial health is most small cities in Kern County are nowhere near as capable of doing that as we are. And that's a financial management, that's a leadership issue without question. So
the other thing is too key is that most of these grants that, out of the 14, I'd say more than half require a match, require us up front to put the money on the bulkhead and say, okay, we've got a 10 or 20% match. And that's the huge value to our community is that we're able to put the 20% to get, 4 or 5 times that value in asphalt down on the ground.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that in a while, Key, but matching, 5%, 10%, 20% of $1 million or $7 million. So airport, for example, $7 million, it's over $7 million in an FAA grant. Now, typically there's a 10% match, but we got really creative, the team, and said, hold on a minute, there's Caltrans Aeronautics, right? Caltrans, you think streets and roads, right? Highways, byways. But there's an aeronautic branch of Caltrans. And so we approached them about, hey, could you help us with this match? And they said, well, of course we can. We'd be happy to. And so they're going to provide
half of the 10, basically.
Half of the 10%.
So 5% of the project.
Yeah, 5%. Yeah. And so voila, it's creative thinking, it's planning, it's engineering our future. And so we're using less local dollars and more state dollars by combining the FAA and Caltrans Aeronautics. Win-win.
That's about developing relationships, picking up the phone, and talking with people. Mm-hmm. And it's more the communication. We talked about that earlier at the beginning, but we communicate with other agencies as well. And when you develop relationships, and I think another part of this, and Greg, you talk about this, especially here with Jay, with your department, you deliver. And then we have a reputation for delivering. And that, when you have that kind of a reputation, I think that probably carries a little weight when the call comes from the city of Tehachapi and they'd like us to do this. Well, they follow through. If they say they're going to do it, they end up getting it done.
Yeah, we're in a very weird time in my 23-year career. I've never seen something like it. And what it is a chronic understaffing across the state of California. And it's a whole another conversation about why it's occurring, but it's occurring. Agencies all across the state are chronically understaffed right now. Well, that's opportunity in my eyes, because what that means is when we go up for competitive grants that there are fewer competitors or poorer quality competition, and so that's the philosophy that we've been undertaking. We've been pretty stressed out with 14 projects, and Andrew's over there laughing, but I'm still pushing.
No, it's a nervous laugh.
Yeah, I'm still pushing. We're going to talk to the council here soon about the next set of grant applications we want to go after, and get their blessing, hopefully, on doing that. But talking to my Caltrans partners in District 9 today, Greg doesn't even know this yet, that they want to go after a grant for a regional planning action, and they want us to get involved because we deliver, and because they want to, I presume, because they want to partner with an agency that wants to get stuff done. District 9 is right on the heels of the big win on the truck climbing lanes. They go, okay, these guys on Tehachapi, they push. They want things to get better.
So in addition to what you're saying, Jay, we've got our own little city that we're managing and managing these projects, but we're assisting our partners at Caltrans with truck climbing lanes, right? We know that story. We've talked about it many, many times, but also we're assisting our partners in the county of Kern with the design and expansion of 202 between the city and Golden Hills, say McDonald's to, Golden Hills Boulevard. So that is leadership from the city of Tehachapi. Make no mistake about it. And then the frontage road between California City Boulevard and the Edwards Air Force Base overpass, right? We're helping the region with that project too. And so we're not just doing, we don't just have blinders on, and so I'm not surprised at all what you just said, Jay, about Caltrans approaching us about some regional planning document. I'm all in. We have to be healthy as a region. We can't be a healthy city with unhealthy
Well, I haven't told
partners.
you how much time it's going to take. So
yeah, well, there's always the weekend. There's always weekends and nights.
There
right?
is always.
Yeah.
Right, Andrew? Yes.
I'm all out of those.
Yeah. Well, Jay, your kids are just almost grown.
mine are
One's
about
going
to
off
leave
to
for
Purdue,
school.
and so you got plenty of time now, right? So we're good.
Right. This is a half laugh, half cry, folks. I'm telling you.
So 3 months ago, when we had this conversation about what was coming here for our summer months, we had 14 projects that we talked about. 5 of those we can check the box to say, hey, we've already got it done.
Yep.
So Andrew, how does that make you feel knowing that you're almost at 50%?
We'll get there. We batch these out, and we're rolling into batch 2.
Is
So
your glass is half full or half empty?
let's go.
Let's go. It's half full.
The glass is constantly full. It doesn't reach half ever.
It's overflowing.
Right? Yeah. It never reaches half.
We're going to drop a little water in there just to see how long that crests before it spills over.
But I don't want to make light on it too much, but 14 projects, and you said this was the most that the department has taken on. It was a lot of work, and you could check the box on 5 of these already, and they are impactful projects. When we talk about our water, the underground infrastructure, when we talk about the Pinyon Extension, helping the community get from point A to point B and getting our kids to school, improving that safety, striping throughout the community, getting that done for having, a better visibility as we head towards the winter months, the resurfacing of streets and parking lots. Those are all big deals. And I'm sure there's some city listening going, I wish we did that in the last 2 years. And you guys have done that in the last 3 months. Yeah. So I say, congratulations. It's a lot of teamwork, but to check the box on those 5, that's a big lift. So,
yeah, I'm very proud of Jay and Andrew and the entire team, what they do.
Yeah, thanks.
They deliver.
So next time when we get together, we'll be talking about the other 9 and where we are, and can we check the boxes on those?
Yeah, we'll check a bunch of these, I think, here by the end of summer. Not a bunch, a couple. But, maybe more than a couple. Well, we'll see. We got a lot to do.
a lot of work ahead, but a lot of work is being done. A lot of work has already been invested to get these to where they're at right now. A couple of years worth of work but I think that's the thing that we want to share, make sure people understand. We don't put it together in 3 months. This is a 3-year, and we have these 5 and 10-year visions, and we've worked towards that. And as we start to accomplish and complete, I think we need to kind of look back and say, hey, what's the totality of getting here? Sure. How did we get here? And it's about planning. It's about, thinking things through and having a long-term vision. Not being reactionary, but being proactive in as many places as we can.
Yeah.
All right, guys, anything else that we haven't talked about?
I'm good. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Key.
We're gonna put you right back in the grind. So this was your break.
Yeah, back to work.
All right. Well, folks, if this discussion has created questions, send them to me at media@tehachapicityhall.com. I'll get them to Jay and Andrew, and we'll get you answers, or we'll make it a topic for a future show and bring them back, and we'll get into what issues you want to talk about. We appreciate the time. Jay, Andrew, Greg, thank you.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
All right, we'll catch you again soon right here on Tehachapod.
Tehachapod is a conversation about Tehachapi, featuring the community members who make this such a special place to call home. If you have a question or a thought you'd like to share, email media@tehachapicityhall.com. Thank you to Gary Mazzola for sharing his song, This is Tehachapi.